survey mentions two lots. Clearly, they've affected this lot, not mentioned it in this, and then the narrative, the survey's narrative.
The first red flag is that they adjusted the two lots and both lots got bigger.
I'd like to do that.
Something had to get smaller somewhere,
Yeah,
but that's
I
not.
did that survey.
So-
Hire
so-
that surveyor.
So there's actually three lots there, is what you're saying.
Well, there was before
There was.
this happened, but I don't know what happened to the third lot. It's not addressed in this or the surveyor's notes.
So it's gone.
Well,
Like I
Yeah.
said, from what was there, I couldn't make heads or tails of what they're
right,
trying
it's
to do.
very confusing. Okay, so my problem with number 2 here on the original fence lines were observed. If you drive by, the stakes are in the middle of the field. So there's one thing. And number 3, and I just can't get number 3, you'll have to read it, I can't say it with a straight face.
Read it out for us, Jim.
We'll see. No. Did you want her to read it out loud?
I did.
I'm trying.
Number 3?
I'm not sure it's English.
I'll read it if you want me to.
Yeah, please.
The northeast corner of section 18 does not match the state plane coordinates per the county tie sheet. Corner was established based on the actual ties to remaining evidence that are labeled on the county tie sheets. The power pole to the southeast has been changed out and replaced. I was able to pull a tape off of the other two power poles per the county record.
Okay. I didn't know we surveyed on telephone poles.
Yeah, well, we survey off of Stranger Things, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
shouldn't be.
Well, if you guys all remember, all the power poles down 3000 South just got changed last year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Only.
But he's saying the northeast corner of section 18.
They use
which
power
is-
poles as
Further
just
down.
Yeah.
a plot on the legal description. If there is a power pole, they'll generally list it, but as far as using it as a description.
They pulled the
start-
tape off of it.
No.
So there's a red flag for me.
Used to measure from other.
The southwest corner is on the tie sheet that comes off of the fence posts that were there 75 years ago, but.
So I guess my questions was, what happened to this lot?
Yeah,
It's not mentioned in there. These two lots went from .40 to .64. This one went from 1 to 115. Okay, I pull my cheat sheet that I have from the county, that when this lot was created, I could never see where a half lot was ever allowed in the county without being on a sewer. So now we've got past the half acre, so it's gotten bigger, but I don't know how that lot was ever approved.
well, and now,
And that lot was approved and conveyed, well, it was conveyed, use the right language, huh? It was conveyed in 2001, was that?
Well, it created, yeah,
but
created. yeah,
now in the
created.
meantime, hasn't the one lot been sold? The home?
I don't know, the reason that we're involved is because we had a real estate agent contact us and indicated to them that they should get town approval, official town approval before
I think,
they sell.
I think the email started with, we did a lot line adjustment, did we need to tell you about that? And the reply was, yeah, there's a process for that, you haven't done a lot line adjustment until it goes through the process. And then this is what got turned in, and we all have, like I said, I have our surveyor preparing a letter with questions. The first one I have is when you do a lot line adjustment, one gets big, one gets small, vice versa. When both get big, there's something we're not looking at the whole story.
Did they take more out of lots
Well, I
behind
think
the
they
bigger
took-
parcels?
I think they took it out of that.
Bigger?
Yeah,
Oh,
so
they just
so
made
from
this
what I
one
can tell, I
way
think they took
bigger.
it out of that lot, but then they don't mention that lot. So it's a 3-lot line adjustment, which is fine, we can do that, but,
See,
I mean,
that
in
one was only
principle.
1.05,
but,
if it was a lot.
Yeah, but if I own the piece behind it, I'd want that frontage. It still won't help. There's lots of lines.
Right.
but if there's 3 lots, 2 got bigger, then that 1.05 is now less than an acre, and we can't make a non-conforming lot smaller. so we can't prove it because the third lot's getting smaller. If the third lot gets swallowed up into one of the big parcels in the back, and and it goes away, and we have 4 lots that become 3, you know, then maybe, if that's what they're doing, maybe that's okay, but that's not what this says.
Seems like we need more information before we can prove anything.
So Eric has met with our surveyor, and he's working on a letter to document what, you know,
Yeah.
our concerns and the additional information that will be required before we can move forward.
So,
What are you thinking, Mike?
right, so the reason we bring this up is because you may get contacted.
Yeah, people will call.
Yes, they will. So that's where we're at on that one. We have Gary working on that from TO.
I still can't say it, but yes,
You know, what's that?
TO.
TO engineer, so it was Tooth Lynn Orton 2 years ago.
TO.
It's just the letters.
Yes.
A deal.
Okay.
Are you chairman of the board?
Yeah.
It's a deal.
Chairman of the Minions.
Okay, so that lets you know what's going on with that. We're working on it. And that's why I sent it out, because I couldn't get through it. It was just like, wow, something's wrong. It just doesn't add up.
Well, I know someone moved in, I heard they bought the house,
I heard they did too, and again, the town,
but that's just hurt, you know.
what happens
We've
is,
been
what
working on it, I don't know.
well, what happens is if they bought an illegal lot or created an illegal lot, suddenly you can't finance that lot, you can't build on that lot. There's nothing you can do on that lot. You can live in that house the way it is, but you can't get a permit. We have several of them in the town that people have done that, have changed lot lines against what we've recommended, and they're just stuck in that.
So how do they fix that? Do they have to go back through the realtor and get it official?
That would, yeah, the courts,
I mean, there is a way out, right?
It would
Probably
be the
back to
real
the title
title.
company.
Yeah, title company and the court
Yeah.
system.
And I don't know, that's probably why she put that language in there, I would get official. And you know, their response was, we talked to the city. Who they talked to, but.
So there's nothing short of courts. They can't come in and do it after the fact as long as you approve. I'm just curious how it would work.
Well, they could go back and make it comply.
So they can change the lot lines and
Right.
then change all the paperwork.
Just what they did, they could go change the lot lines back.
After you tell them it has to be a certain way.
According to what our requirements are.
Yeah, after you tell them how it
Right,
has to be.
right. But for them to do something in contrary to that, that would have to go through the court system.
Well, and it sounds like that may have happened, so I'm just wondering what they do now.
Well, and I guess the heads up was, when it first went on the market, we had a real estate agent call us and said, and wanted to know if it was recorded and everything. We said, we don't know, we don't have that information, you have to provide that. Well, she did some investigation and she wrote back, it appears it's not. It was never recorded legally, so we're just like, oh, well, maybe. Again, we don't have the evidence, we just have the emails, so,
And we've received nothing from any courts, have we?
no.
So if it went through the court needed to have contacted us, and they haven't, so that's where that stops.
Okay. Okay, we have, next item on the agenda, disconnect application, reviews and recommendations. So it doesn't come through as a land use. The courts have set that up where it goes right to the council, although I think it is a land use myself. Have you guys been involved with the disconnect, the public hearings and everything that's been going on? We have 2 of those currently in the town for disconnect, Nate Orton's place, Nader Enterprise, and then we have Coleman on the other end. So we have 2 disconnect. Right, their current, where they're currently standing is they've been continued and in a public hearing state right now. So that's where they're at.
I have a question about the Nader Enterprises. Didn't the city council deny his request?
There were some irregularities and the one in Nate Orton's was turned down. He reapplied under his company name, which is what the property is in. So that was a fatal flaw in the application. So they found that and reapplied, taking that flaw out.
Okay.
So the commercial that was approved just south of him hasn't had a bearing on Mr. Warden's.
We have not had
Disconnect.
any communication from him one way or the other. Okay, so the reason I put this on the agenda was is if the planning wanted to make a recommendation to the town board, or if you just want to let that slide, it's totally up to you. Doesn't come before you, it's not required by state law. Whatever this planning commission wants to do. Okay?
Some question.
Yes.
In one of the public meetings I was at, it seemed like Nader Enterprises somehow felt like that there was a chance they could connect to Twin Creeks for sewer service. And that was gonna be looked into. Has there been any positive one or negative one way or the other, whether that is feasible or can be done, or?
For him or for the town?
Well, yeah, for him or the town, either one is.
Okay, we sat in a meeting with Ron and Steve Farrell, and we brought this up down at TO Engineering. And the way that works from their standpoint is, he makes application to the town, if he's in the town, we make application to them. So we haven't made application because we haven't had an application. So that's how that works outside of everything, so.
And he was informed of that? That he needs to
Nate?
apply?
Yes, in fact, they deny that that's even possible, so. They've had, in Corbin's response there, he's spoke to people on the board that said that that's not how it goes, so.
That it's not feasible or not?
That's not the process.
Oh,
That's just my opinion in reading that, so.
So if he's applying to disconnect, he would need to talk to Heber City about running sewer, right? He
Well,
wants to deal with them instead of us.
that's the problem, is because that parcel is already in a special service district. So there's a third tie into that. Now you're talking about Heber City crossing into another service district. It may not be in their district. They have a 20-year plan just like we do for annexation. So you have to, those, if it's not in their service area, then it's not even an option. So those are things that his attorney and have to work out, and it's complicated. Sir?
This may be a tangent, and it may not be connected at all, but I'm gonna repeat what I've said before about this. Is if there's any way we can keep these properties from being disconnected and provide the services that are what the property owners need, I think it's well to our benefit to keep them in Daniel if we can. And if that's not possible and they decide to go disconnect, I think that would be very unfortunate.
I'd like to make a motion that we get your words down in a motion.
Well, I don't know what the motion would be.
No, just that recommendation.
Oh, I don't know, that's a recommendation. I'm just thinking
I think that's a great
it would be very
recommendation.
unfortunate to lose property, residence, parcels, or however you want to state that, out of Daniel and into some other jurisdiction. I think we ought to try to do whatever we can, meaning maybe make some adjustments to what we normally would do in order to keep the property in Daniel. And if we're so determined that we're not going to bend or be flexible, then I think we need to be prepared to have a lot more of this happen.
So let's put that into a recommendation.
You go
What the
ahead,
other-
Gary, I can't.
What the other three of you think? Do you agree with that? Do you not agree with that?
No, I agree with it. I think a lot of the problem with the disconnect that's going on is people aren't informed.
I think you're right.
And once they have all the facts, they might not want to disconnect. But how do you get them to that point if they don't want to listen to you? They have
I
to go
agree.
through these steps. But I think a motion that says, hey, we want to be as friendly as we can to everybody,
We'd like to
provide
keep them.
services and keep them in the town, I don't see a problem with that.
Okay.
Gary, if you want to make that, I'll second it, but I'm not going to make that as a motion.
Ready, Carrie?
I don't even know. Let's Can I borrow your pen? Yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys
Well,
can keep
maybe
talking.
coming in ready for 'em.
Oh, I like that.
That's nice, huh?
We don't get your opinion though if it's in written form.
Want to be the planner?
Okay, so while you're writing that, I'll hand out this next agenda item for us. Don't get lost in it, so.
What have you, I didn't make it to the city council meeting last Wednesday or 2 Wednesdays ago with the Coleman public hearing.
So,
I'm just kind of curious, what the general, maybe it's going to be your, giving your opinion, I don't know. How did the public, how much public showed up to that and how much opinion was offered
as far
for
as.
the disconnect for Coleman's and
Can I
Nader?
give you one? You do. So it was continued. The only person that spoke was the attorney on that one.
Scheduling was off. That's why.
Yeah, it was a weird, remember we had to meet
On
because,
Wednesday.
well, yeah, because of the law told us we had to meet within 30 days, so we had to move the meeting up.
Said online to meet on the night, but it was still the following Monday.
Yeah.
I didn't know until I checked the Thursday after on Wednesday. Then listened to the minutes. So that's how nice that is.
So, okay, was there much public comment
Mhm.
other than the attorney?
Yeah.
Nobody here.
What was that?
There was
comment?
nobody here.
But it was posted. It was posted in the paper. It was
It was.
posted everywhere.
Yeah, it was posted.
I was
All
gonna
the
say,
legal
so if
requirements
they
and
did
noticing
come, it
all that,
wasn't-
but-
Not
Because it
online.
wasn't posted. It was posted on the newspaper.
Oh, that's-
It was I was gonna say, Mary checked, she showed us it was online.
I saw it on Daniel's website.
I checked the day after and it still said that following Monday.
I knew it was gonna be on Wednesday. On my website that I looked at.
Well, again, the Daniel website's not required because we're at the state. The
Oh.
state one is where it's required anyway, but the notice was in the paper, and so it says the paper or the state website. We didn't go.
Okay.
So even if we missed one website, we're still in compliance.
Okay, well, that's too bad that you missed it.
Tricky.
Yeah.
Is
I'm on
Is there
my,
something you need to add tonight when we're talking about it?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. I was gonna-
All our other decisions have been made within 2 weeks.
Okay.
So.
All right, I just didn't want to cut you short.
Oh, no. Y'all know where it's
These
at.
guys all work for you, so.
There was people there. There was some neighbors that came to that meeting.
Yeah,
but
There
they
was
didn't
me-
speak
people
or
here.
they didn't offer
They
comment.
did speak.
but they was mainly, they was there for the complaint of the dust.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it wasn't about the disconnect.
and that's probably been fixed.
We haven't had any new complaints at all. I think that's been resolved over there. It seems like things have changed. There's happy neighbors over there, so something changed.
Yeah, but somebody said it was unhappy.
Speak up.
Okay?
What? And Coleman's would plan, if they were to disconnect, to be a part of the county at that point, on the disconnect. What is Daniel's progress with trying to obtain the county's parcel between Eber and Daniel? What's the progress at that point now?
We've met with the attorneys, our attorneys, and they've outlined a couple of things that we should do prior to annexing to make it more open to the public. They think that maybe the public doesn't understand some of the things that's going on, and they think that we're just in for a land grab, and that our attorney thinks that we should put that together and show them that this is what we're doing. We have what our long-term range plans are. So as part of the land use plan that we just adopted, we're working on a map that will show those land uses overlay so that those show up on a map. Now, we had several residents when we did that, when we started, didn't want that map. They don't want to be brown. They didn't like what we said they could do on their property. They wanted to be what they are. And so there was a lot of back. Matter of fact, we had the Vision 2020. What is that one from? Salt Lake that came up here. We spread out everything on the tables in here. Some of you might have been involved in that. And they said, okay, you're getting this many residents, where are you putting them? Here's your town, here's your boundaries, where are you putting them? And of course, their plan was to develop a long-term general plan and land use plan for the town. Well, the residents were just, we don't want you in our town, so they basically ran them folks out the door. We don't like your plan, go home.
I remember that meeting because they'd drawn a road right through the middle of my field.
Yep.
And when I walked in the room, because I was a little bit late, I saw them racing it off.
Yeah. And so their job, you know, they work for Mountain Land Association of Government, and that's their job, is to show up here and show you guys this is what's coming.
This is a concept that might be
Right.
something that.
They try and
would
get
work
you to
good for
think
you.
out in the future, what are you gonna do?
It was a county commissioner that was racing. But anyway.
So that's been met with some resistance in the town, but again, those are all tools that Mountain Land Association of Government uses to help municipalities fulfill their responsibilities.
It was a good exercise and it might be worth doing again at some point.
Some of my thoughts on this property that we're trying to maybe annex in is the zoning on it and the airport expansion. And 20 years away from now, if this stays industrial, what's to say that there couldn't be some kind of a road that parallels the back of the airport, that parallels down and connects to 189 and can take some of the industrial traffic that might come into this zoning. I mean, there's going to be a lot of land property owners that are going to be displaced with the airport expansion. I mean, this could benefit a lot of things if there was some kind of road that would come in with this in a concept. It could provide a buffer zone. It could provide a chance to put in some kind of sound barriers. It could then landscaping and a lot of things that could benefit the industrial area of Heber with a good access to Highway 89, 189, and get the traffic off Daniels Road and off of Airport Road. And there's some really, I mean, it's kind of an ambiguous goal that I see for just something that could happen with Daniels. But I think maybe I should have said more of this in our general plan that was being sent to the board, but I don't know when the time is to talk about this. But
Well, again, they're all wonderful ideas and wonderful outlooking. None of that, we put all that effort into that until it's in the town, that doesn't come into play. And
right,
so that was the reason for the annexation to start with, is because if you draw the line, then you can plan that area. If you can plan all you want, but if Heber City gets that, that's their plan.
yep.
So that's exactly what we're looking at with the annexation. That's why we move forward, trying to draw that line and find out, because, I mean, that's what state law is set up to do, eliminate those peninsulas and islands. That's an overlap of service and function. That's why state law allows that.
And like Coleman's disconnecting and wanting to be in the county, if Heber City got enough properties together there, they could get pulled in to Heber City
Oh, absolutely.
without,
I can guarantee you when we're done here, that's exactly what's gonna happen. Heber City's gonna take everything that's left.
and they won't have any choice because
Yeah.
they've got enough property that's a minority share and
Yeah.
it goes into Heber
What,
City.
in effect, what we did was offer these property owners a way to have lower taxes and to have a say in what their property was doing. And that was what our goal was. That was not what was public portrayal was. It was a hostile takeover. And so that's why our attorneys is telling us we need to be more, have a little plan that we can show the public. I mean, I'm just like, what do you want me to say? You want me to go there and say, go to Heber, they pay more taxes, they need your money really bad. I mean, that's the option, so.
So
I
for those
feel,
property owners, going to the county is not really what's going to happen then? That's what they're being told is happening, but what's
Well,
going
you
to
have
happen
to,
is they're going
you
to the
have to go
city?
back to the county, but then state law is to eliminate those peninsulas and islands.
So the city is standing ready to take them,
Right, and matter of fact, we talked about the Dunn property over by the airport,
okay?
that they're already providing services and is actually under an annexation with the city right now.
Okay.
So those properties are being,
So they will end up in the city.
they will end up in a
and it makes
municipality.
it much easier for them to move the airport south because
If it's
it's
in
a
their
new town,
city,
they can use
Belongs to
it
the
when they
city,
need
they
it.
can do what they want.
you're right, yeah, it's a city thing,
So then they'll just,
And so that's why my first step was to go meet with the planner of Heber City and say, what's your plan for this area? Here's what we have. And so that's what I did. I met with the planner. I says, here's what and he tells me, okay, we don't have sewer, we can't service that area. We don't have the capacity for services in that area. What's your plan with it? I said, we don't have a plan. We're looking at taking those properties, completing that to the property line, because in annexation, we have to annex to the property line. It's when they created the town that that line was drawn. So we're planning on completing that and then drawing a plan. He says, what is your feeling on the industrial? I said, we've had several people comment that there should be an industrial area in there, and maybe a commercial area in there, that is a buffer zone between the industrial, the airport, industrial, and into commercial, and some of these valued small businesses we have, that would be an area that they'd want to be in. Because they're actually a buffer between the industrial and the RA5. So those things, again, we can't build that plan until the property's in. And so that's why we moved with the annexation to start with. I hope that helps.
Well, you've told me that you're gonna make all of these points more known. Our attorney has suggested that.
Yeah,
So all of a sudden, what seems to be a hostile takeover might be a friendly invitation.
well, again, it's all in the perceived, so. Along those lines, okay, you ready with your,
Yeah, I think so.
okay, let's get back on this one before we move on.
Okay, the recommendation I wrote down is just the planning commission recommends that the town council should work with the property owners who wish to disconnect and make every effort to keep those properties a part of the town.
I will second that.
Okay, got a motion and a second?
Do that again, Gary.
What?
Read the
I
minutes.
need to read it. You can try and read it.
Pretty legit.
He was right.
That's pretty legit.
Make it easier, keep the properties apart.
Give us a second, right?
Okay. Have a motion, a second. More discussion? Get a chance, get through that, Mark? Enough to vote? Or do you want to discuss it?
You like it?
That's fine.
Anybody else want to read it?
I don't have any
Carrie
problem with
wants
what
it.
that.
Okay.
So she doesn't have to.
Who seconded it? Oh,
I just think it'd be unfortunate if we lost property.
yeah.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Call for the vote. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. We'll send that to the council as a recommendation also.
Can I make a comment or a recommendation possibly?
Sure.
That, would it be in the town's benefit to maybe appoint or make a position in some board, a person that would be say a liaison or a public, a person to go and talk to property owners in these situations? Is there somebody's that, does that fall into somebody's job title? Yeah, description already?
Yeah, it is.
No,
Should send Sherry Price.
actually, once they retain counsel, then it's in the council's hand. So once a person has retained counsel, the negotiations is basically done at our level, that's between the attorneys now. So that becomes a legal argument between attorneys. So when they show up at the meeting with an attorney, that in effect limits what the town's gonna say from then on. Because then you start incurring liability. Lawyers are smart that way, they don't incur liability. We are a liability to ours. And we'll discuss that in just a minute and you'll understand it perfectly.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Next item is number 7, grazing addition. You guys, did I give you something? Okay. What we did is at the county, we met with the county. They want to add this to our noxious weed plan, the second page. And so that wording, you'll notice in the first that it's noxious weed mitigation. And so what they want to use is grazing. Currently, grazing is not a tool in our weed plan. They want to add that tool to the weed plan.
Yeah, I don't read it here on the noxious weed mitigation resolution. I don't see grazing in there.
There's nothing there on it. So that might be a good one, but grazing is also a really good way to spread seeds.
Absolutely.
It is.
So that's why I'd like to see what the plan is.
Okay.
So it's, these techniques include biological control, hand pulling, revegetation, to include blah, blah, blah,
That's
blah.
why if you
And
go up and
herbicides, but it doesn't say
this is
grazing.
right next to alfalfa.
Okay.
Where did those seeds
Very
come
copy
from?
does. Livestock management tool as a tool for weed control. We crossed noxious weed out because we want this available from the county level for all weed control in the county.
Okay, so you're reading this.
I'm reading you this addition.
Oh,
This is our current plan that you have in your
okay, now
hand.
you have the addition. Okay, got it.
So that's the current plan you have in your hand.
Got it.
This is the one that we want to add, okay?
Okay,
So just let me.
got it.
Prescribed livestock grazing is the intentional use of livestock to achieve vegetation management goals. Many studies have established programs to show that grazing weeds at a specific time, duration, and intensity can effectively reduce their abundance. While numerous studies and well-established programs clearly demonstrate the effective application of prescription grazing, it is underutilized as a weed management tool. Information on how to accomplish prescription grazing for vegetation management is currently available at the Livestock Grazing Guidelines for Controlling Noxious Weeds in the Western United States by Davidson, Smith, and Wilson. So that's the tie-in to where we get that information from. Livestock, including cattle, sheep, goats, are beneficial through various grazing systems to reduce invasive weeds. These systems, such as targeted, intensive, high-density, low-frequency, and close herding grazing for as short as a day or less in a given area, could accomplish defined vegetation and landscape goals. Fertilization, hoof action by trampling litter and grass seed into the soil, may also assist revegetation. So what they're talking about there is if you have fire or you're trying to get a new seed established, you can spread that seed, run the livestock in, and they actually trample the seed in. And so you have more contact with the ground, so you have more germination with those seeds. Placement of salt and supplements in stands of noxious weeds to attract livestock can also be effective. The land manager must have a clear vision of the desired plant community, and the livestock manager must have the skill to aim livestock at the target to accomplish the desired goals. It should be considered as another tool in the kit for maintaining a desirable ecosystem. The vast roadless extent of many grazing lands and available financing make it difficult to control noxious weed or reestablish desirable vegetation for forage and animals. Livestock and their management are readily available and under-exploited tool that is fast proving effective for vegetation management in many settings. The most important skills for applying these suggestions are patience, commitment, and intensive livestock management. Well, that's the same thing for raising kids. By owners and managers. A minimum of 3 years is usually required before a noticeable difference in the herbaceous weeds are apparent. Grazing prescriptions should cause significant damage to the target plant, limit damage to surrounding vegetation, and be integrated with other control management tools. It must be viewed as a long-term landscape maintenance tool and part of the integrated strategy, including to discourage new invasive species from being introduced. The goal is to reduce seed population, vigor, and size of noxious weeds, and to control continued spread of invasive species as well as encourage revegetation. So all that is for livestock, and we wanted to add that to the plan to be consistent with the county. I think we have that already going on in the town with people that have livestock. They definitely control weeds in a lot of the areas, so. We just like to add that, so what we're looking for tonight is a recommendation, a motion to make a recommendation to the council to include that in their weed plan.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, I have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second, any discussion?
Well, my worry is just, it takes a lot of effort to do it right. If you don't, which most people don't, you just spread the weeds.
A huge concern, debated on the floor a lot at the county level. Typically, that's the problem, is that they don't understand. By putting this in our plan, it allows us to secure some state monies that will bring the mineral tubs and the salt into areas to try and keep them in. But it ultimately is with, that's why the sheep herders are so much better, because they're there with their animals. They take the cows up and you turn them loose. And so this debate, we had a lot of.
Yeah, and it depends on what stage the weeds are in when they're eating.
Right, right. I mean, we've had sheep herds come through and totally just decimate noxious weeds. I mean, they just eat them. And if you touch that plant, you get a blister, and they just eat it. Like, and it's like, wow, that is
The
unreal.
city uses it.
You can also have somebody that's just had them grazing where it's, when the seed's on the plant, and move them into another area, and then you just spread your area.
Yeah, depending on your animal. Yeah.
Most of us go straight through.
I have a question is,
But you can make coffee, it's been through the goats.
That's right.
so is the county's plan to open some of the county held lands to grazing rights, so to speak, to livestock owners to let this happen? How is this
I
going to be
don't believe that the
implemented?
county does, but I think what this allows is when somebody comes in to get a building permit from us, we send them down to see Quentin. We say, you have to have a weed plan on your property. You're gonna come in, you're gonna disturb it. What's your weed plan? How are you gonna control that? So you'll remember the Bennett residents up in Big Hollow. We had to put a shutdown order on the house because there was seeds producing out there. And so we actually went up and put a stop work order. And of course, they worked right through that. And it's like, what is your weed plan? This allows it as a tool. This is what I'm gonna do with my weed. Right now, they can say, I'm gonna go out there and pull them every week. That's a plan. Great, you're gonna do something. That's what we're after. We're trying to motivate owners to take care of their land.
That's just an optional.
So this is just another tool that you can use.
And I think we ought to improve it,
Oh, I agree with you. If you improve
Well,
it,
and it
is there a
addresses-
way of managing it right?
Yeah, there
Yeah.
are monies tied to it, did I understand that correctly?
What's that?
There are monies tied to it?
There becomes monies that's available.
Okay.
So it's the same way you can go down and pick up your weed spray. There's grants available that make some of this more feasible. Those mineral blocks are a lot of money, so if that helps.
Mineral or
Protein blocks, yeah.
attract cattle.
So when I went down to the weed conference, they did quite a study on this, and they actually took the cows out, and they had those little garden sprayers, and they filled them up with molasses and water, and they'd go out and they'd spray the noxious weeds with this molasses. It took them about a week and a half, and the cows, suddenly, they get accustomed to that weed. They wasn't spraying anymore, they would just go in there, and that's what they would eat. And it was just the weirdest thing. It was so weird. So there's a lot of studies on it. It's come a long ways. Farm bureaus.
But they wouldn't eat the weeds before that.
No, they're just not palatable. But once they get in their mind that there's protein hooked to that plant, they go after that plant. And then eventually, I imagine they would wean themselves off that. And you'd have to do that again. But
Yeah.
it was interesting to just watch that as it unfolded. I was like, wow, that is amazing. So it's just another tool. So that's all that is. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Motion carries. Okay, we'll have that as a recommendation. Oh, lost me. Where we at, Gary? Oh, here it is. Okay, zone change on the Highway 40 properties. Next item on the agenda. Are we ready to move forward with a recommendation to council?
Properties, plural, which. So this is Mark's and whose?
That's the name of the business, but it's only one
Oh,
property.
Highway 40 Properties is you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the name. That's the name. That's the
Sorry.
name of the
Yeah,
property.
it's just the name of the business.
Yes, you're good.
We're ready to have it continue, or not continue, to have a recommendation made by
Okay.
the council or the planning committee, I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. Is there any other discussion that we need to have on this before we make a recommendation?
So it wasn't a council meeting, but I heard the council approved Rob's.
Yes,
Okay.
it was changed to commercial,
That was it.
went for the posting, and will become effective after the posting. So it went through that, and then, of course, we do the ordinance, and then that's the posting after that, so 15 days after that. Okay, entertain a motion to make a recommendation on zone change on the Highway 40 properties.
Nobody wants to do it. Okay, I'll throw one out for you guys to vote down if you want. And as I recommend that I move that we recommend to the council that they approve the zone change for Highway 40 properties.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and I have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I have a 3-to-1 vote.
I'm going to abstain from
You're
voting
gonna
at
abstain?
this point.
Okay, the motion needs 4 to carry.
Is he allowed to vote?
Absolutely. So that's a great point to bring up, Tom. So what the law requires, if you have a perceived conflict of interest, by law, what you do is you make that known, but there's nothing in the law, absolutely nothing, that requires you not to vote. It's a personal decision you make.
I'd ask for a vote again, a repeat of the vote, and yeah, in not having any kind of conflict or violation of the law, I would encourage the abstaining member to cast a vote for or against.
Okay, we have a motion for a revote. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion for a revote and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for the revote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, you still have a 3, motion don't carry. Did you vote, Mark?
No, I just, for some reason, I was thinking there was enough to make it carry. I see what you're saying. Can't you vote?
No, I only vote when there's a tie.
Only as a tie.
Yes, I make everybody mad.
You have to make your statement first.
But I have to make my statement first.
You would have a conflict of interest.
Okay, I've been through this before. It's making sense now. I call for a revote.
Is that a motion?
A motion for a revote.
Okay, I have a motion for a revote. Is there a second? Okay, I have a second. A motion for a revote and a second. Discussion. Seeing none? Is this where you want to talk? Discussion on the motion
Yes,
before we vote?
before we vote, I would like it to be known that I am a property owner of Highway 40 properties. And I would like to cast my vote in this. I'd like to be able to cast my vote when the vote is called for.
Okay,
Is that what I should say?
it's perfect. You've acknowledged you may have a conflict of
And
interest.
I may have a conflict of
That's
interest.
what the law requires.
Okay.
Okay? Any other more discussion? Seeing none, call for the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? 4-1, the motion carries. We'll send that through with a recommendation to council.
Only took a year and a half.
Yeah, that's probably the longest one we've been running. Okay, planner report, item number 9, as if we've been doing nothing.
That's what I thought.
That's what I heard.
That's a rumor around town.
Yeah.
This is the.
Oh, it's not even a whole page long.
I refuse. If we get longer than a page, somebody else has to print it.
It's vacation.
So this is planner report. Glad to have you guys, by the way.
Pretty quick, you're gonna be up here with the rest of us, and it'll be.
There's some opening on some boards.
That's how it started for me.
We encourage that kind of play.
Send her.
Yeah.
I can use her.
He's gonna watch the kids.
You're not numbered tonight or something?
A little.
Okay, so, oh, by the way, I should probably mention that the council did approve $50 per meeting that this planning commission comes to. So you need to give a Sherry Price, fill out a W-2, and you'll receive $50 dividends for coming to each meeting on the planning department. They didn't ask for your recommendation on it, they just did it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you want that, you need to fill out the W-2 though.
So you've been wanting to retire, now you can't.
I'm sorry to push you into a higher tax bracket, but
Double my wages overnight.
yes. Okay, so you can see what's going on there. We've had several issues there that we've dealt with. Everything I think you're all aware of. Is there any questions on that?
Who's Marilyn Binion?
The Binion property is right across the road from the kennel, Tori Skinner's.
Okay.
So there's a
Greenhouse.
10-acre parcel there for sale.
When you
And
see Eric trespassing
and
on
so
fairly often with his.
we had a person come in from Heber City that had it all subdivided into quarter-acre lots. They had all the planning done. Here's what we want to do. Dang, that's not Heber City. That's RA5 zone.
How many lots are there, Eric? 2?
It's a 10.
One.
There's 10 acres right now. It's one lot.
So it could possibly be
It
2.
could be split with what we've had, the evidence that we've seen. I don't know that for certain.
It shows 10 acres, but
Yeah,
it might be smaller or bigger,
it might be.
just like.
Well, we know that
Wanna get
properties grow
surveyed.
from our.
Yes, with the boundary line agreement,
There's a
it ain't
truck on
possible.
the
Let's hire the right surveyor.
Okay, any other questions on that? This is the same report the town council got.
What's the camping complaint?
But we had a complaint on people staying in a trailer longer than the 20-day limit.
That's all over town.
Mhm.
Is there one specific one?
This was up in Storm Haven,
Um,
this complaint here,
Not the one I was.
Storm Haven.
yeah.
requires
Is
a
there-
written complaint.
And it's a 20-day limit,
Yeah, we have a 20-day limit in the town in a calendar year,
so in the calendar year,
yes.
does it have to be a person physically on there or just the camper set up there?
What's that?
So is the 20-day limit as consecutive 20 days?
It's
That
20
somebody
days in
stays
a calendar
it,
year.
or that it's, okay,
So it doesn't matter, it's not consecutive, it can be weekends, it can be 20 days is what we have in the code. Is
What
that
if they-
something,
What if they move it 2 feet over,
it's camping on the property.
camping on the property?
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, 20-day limit. Is that something that this board needs to look at on the code? Is that something we need to look at to,
I'd kind of like to address that.
Just given a scenario.
Yeah,
You were
given it.
thinking.
I mean, I got to thinking, what if someday I retire and my son buys my house and I go live somewhere down south in the winter and come back up north in the summer? I'd kind of like maybe the opportunity to throw my RV out in the backyard for the summer and not be harassed about it.
Well, not for all summer, but it might be more than 20 days in a
Yeah.
year.
right?
But I don't think people complain unless they see a setup camper and it looks like.
And then live there
living in it.
year round.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
about the flamingos? and-
Again, if it's a problem, that's usually when they're complaining, if it becomes a problem and an issue.
It's kind of letter of the law, spirit of the law, but I'm thinking if they see you come for 5 days in a month and you leave and then you come back.
Right.
Like down.
Park it in the shop, we'll never see.
Well, and don't forget that the current
Well,
council
That's,
is gonna change.
that's what I was just gonna
So-
say right now is, we don't care. I think that's awesome if somebody could come and do that, and I wouldn't throw them off the property whatsoever.
However, if they show up with all their drunken buddies and loud music, you might care.
Right.
That's not a camping issue, that's a.
Or they
No,
got a
well,
pipe
the
running out
flamingos
the
don't
back
seem to drop
because
complaints.
Well,
And then there's the noise
small.
enforcement that comes into play with that.
Right.
And
They're
they complain,
emptying their
everything.
effluent
Right.
onto the surface. or-
But when Eric shows up, he uses all the tools available in the toolbox, so.
So that's something like it has to be put on the docket to be changed at some point.
Yeah, we can certainly bring that up and discuss that, and if we want to make a recommendation to council to change that. We do have some snowbirds here in the town that are retired and like to do those kind of
I
things.
see it, yeah, there's quite a few around.
You know, if you're gonna play your trumpet back there, we're gonna complain, but if you're quiet.
Yep.
Just your crazy story.
Okay? All right, minute approval, next item on the agenda. Did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes? Chance to review? Any corrections or additions? Entertain a motion.
What was the date of that meeting?
July 18th, according to the minutes.
Okay, I move that we approve the July 18th minutes.
I second it.
We have a motion and a second, discussion? Little discussion maybe? I just found on item 6 on the back page. We're approving the minutes for July 18th.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem.
And that should be June. Want to amend your motion?
What's going on, I was thinking,
Okay.
The months go by.
They do, they all run together, it's all right.
Okay, I will amend my motion to say that I move that we approve the July 18th minutes with the date correction on item 6.
Okay, I have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, any more discussion? See none, call for the vote, all in favor? Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Item number 11, motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Awesome, is there a second?
I'll second.
A motion and a second, all in favor? I suppose you don't want to discuss it, so.
I don't want to discuss
Okay.
it.
So after feeling picked on, you took control of the meeting at
I
the end,
did.
and were successful.
Thank you all for your service. There was a couple, one more thing I should have probably brought up to you guys. Be aware that this town is currently under a lawsuit, so with the readers, be careful about what is being said.
Oh,
What's the lawsuit about?
Right away issue. So they filed they filed for a temporary motion,
Temporary restraining order.
temporary restraining order. That was turned down, so they went ahead and filed suit.
Where's that property and what is involved?
Southfield Road.
I'm sorry?
Southfield Road.
They want us to put the trench on the other side of it.
It's on Southfield Road related to the water line.
Yeah, I remember that one now.
Isn't it already done?
This is our Ponzi.
They're about halfway through, a little more than halfway through, so they'll be done by next week.
I drove down
Just for your
Leonard.
information.
Oh, they just have it saw cut for the right readers.
Okay.
Yeah, so the fire hydrants in front of readers, I don't know where they got today, but by tomorrow or the end of the week, they're probably gonna be past readers' house.
So did they actually get into, it looks like they're not hardly gonna even,
He's
Get into
done-
their
he's
property.
done that himself. Or was you aware that
they are gonna have to remove their fence.
Did you always
Oh, I
plan?
did.
you sent us a copy of the letter.
Okay.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
No,
I
the gas lines threw me up. My plan was to stay out of the
Because
road.
I got that, and I got
So
the
there's an
agenda,
addition
and
in
then
10 grand for blacktop, right?
Yes.
And we compensate for that by shortening